got to play Lunar Rush. Now, this is the one that I was so excited about. As soon as I demoed it, I had to have it, so I ended up kickstarting it, and we were able to get it at Gen Con, so I'm super excited for that. But before we get into the review, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, because board games are amazing, and that's what we do here at Legends of Nirvana. Now, Randy, can you tell us a little bit more? Obviously, it was released this year. What else you got for us?
All right. So, Lunar Rush was a 2023 release. It's got a Board Game Geek rating of 8.4, a rank currently of 12,762. It's a 1 to 4 player game, average length of 45 to 75 minutes, which I guess if you rush, Lunar Rush, but it's... probably going to be hard to get in 75 first few times. Age 13 and up, probably appropriate, because there's a lot of advanced...
There's a lot of timing mechanisms and things like that.
You've got a finance board you're managing, and you've got inventory flow. So
I'll be honest, I wouldn't want to teach Sarah this game.
No,
it sounds like a headache.
This would definitely not be... It's definitely not an entry-level game. This would be a medium to heavy game. Not heavy, but medium. I think it's
medium.
close.
It's medium.
Probably medium. Designed by Stephen Skippy Brown, who we actually interviewed on our channel. Art is by Victor Colo Diaz Inyi. I'm sure that's not how it's pronounced, but that's the best I got. Published by Dead Alive Games. This one is the Kickstarter version, so we'll kind of go over what's different. I don't know what's in the base version, but we can talk about some of the highlights of the Kickstarter here when we get into quality of components. Now, we don't have all of the bits for the Kickstarter because some of the stuff shipped with the wrong size components, which we can talk about here in a moment.
All right, so quality of components. I'm pretty sure we got the upgraded pieces back.
Yeah, some of them, not all of them.
So you get screen printed resources. So they're all cubed space theme, but you do get that screen printing of the boxes. You also get gold nuggets as well as gold bars. And
the gold bars are what is being replaced. So they sent us metal bars, but they were sub-sized, and there was only 12 of them when it comes with, I think, 30 in the base game. So hopefully they're going to send us the full count, but they certainly are sending us larger ones. And they were all individually bagged.
Yeah. You also get crystals and actual processed crystals that are from the moon. So you also have, I love the acrylic workers, which are also screen printed. Mm-hmm. The fact that you can kind of see through them are really kind of cool. It's space themed, so a lot of fun there. We did get the play mat, of course, that's separate. The boards are inlaid.
Yeah, they're not the best quality boards as far as inlays go, but they are inlaid.
Mm-hmm. They work functionally. They function great.
Yeah, they work fine.
We also got some foiled cards,
yeah,
which it looks pretty, but playability, I am getting old.
Well, first of all, they are hard to read with the shininess and the lighting, but they also are curling really badly because the way they were printed with the foil.
Yeah, so I feel a little bad. I do.
You get these really nice poker chips. These are like absurdly nice because all they are scoring as you pass the 100 mark. You're not going to use these a whole lot, but they're weighted poker chips. I'm not complaining about it. It just seems like it's a waste for a poker chip.
No, it's fine. It's
but I love them.
First player marker.
That's beautiful.
It is beautiful. It's metal. It's really pretty. Overall, I'm really satisfied with the quality of components. I liked everything. Everything was fully functional. Definitely gave the space feel. I think they chose the right components for this. I'm probably going to give this an 8.5 as far as components go. Is there anything that's mind-blowing? No, but everything's good and solid and pretty. So
I'm going to go a little lower, and the main reason is one of the things they have are 2 cards where you put your pieces that are a multiplier of 1 and a multiplier of 2. And I think it's a way to basically reduce the number of pieces they give you, which I don't like that at all, because it's easy to bump the pieces off. Now, the cards do have a linen finish, which is nice, but to have a card that's 1 and a 2 is a multiplier, I did not like that at all. And I would much rather have the pieces, but we kept running out of some of the components because of that, with only 3 players.
Well, I ordered pieces, so fair enough. Well, you may just have to order an extra component pack.
Yeah, I would rather have the component pack than have those cards, because that's just, to me, it's a way of skimping out on giving the piece quantity that you need to play the game.
Well, maybe they were finding they were running it out.
And, yeah.
You know, and after time.
But yeah, apart from that, I think everything's something. I do also like the little rocket ships because they have a little inlay on them, even though it's not really essential.
So your resources don't fall out.
Yeah.
So, what did you say?
I'll give it an 8.
Okay, all right. So let's move on to the actual theme. You are a company that's running a business. You're going to the moon to get resources, process a few of them, and send them back to Earth. The theme's there. Yeah. I mean, you literally have Earth. You have your spaceships going to it. You have your space station.
Your moon base.
Yeah, you have your moon base that you're developing, and then when you develop certain resources, you send it back. If you get a ship going back, thanks so much, guys, for making sure I did not have a ship to send anyone. I brought it to you.
That was just the final round. You
no, I didn't ship a single thing. That was partly my fault, and we'll talk about that strategy in gameplay. No, I think the theme is spot on for this. To be quite honest with you, the cards, the feel, everything, the art's very well done. Mm-hmm. This felt like a space game. We've played a few space games lately that don't get you spacey feels. This gives you spacey feels. Specifically with, companies trying to, process goods and things like that. Not so much exploration, but the economics behind that kind of thing. And I absolutely loved it. So for me, I can't think of anything they did better. I'm not sure I'm wowed by it. So I'm probably going to give it a 9.
Yeah, I'll probably give it an 8 as well. I don't think it's as spacey as you do. I mean, it definitely is how you run a business from an inventory control flow, and that was really well implemented. And the finance board and the basically maximizing your pricing is well done. But it feels like a business finance game more than it does a space game. No,
I mean, but
it's the art's spacey. I'll give you that. But
and the management control. You are flying your ships. You are having to build buildings. You are having to support your citizens or your astronauts while on the planet.
The having to feed and house your astronauts. But apart from that, you could have a business on Earth shuttling resources to your productions facility. There's not that much difference.
That's just not as cool, Randy.
I know. I agree with you. I like the art.
That's why they did it.
It's the art that sets it apart. That's why I'm giving it an 8. I think it's done an outstanding job with the art. I just don't get a really strong space feel with the gameplay. Anyways.
Well, I mean, that's because you don't have your exploration component. You don't have
but there's
that's
no battling or
that's
discovery.
Not what this game's about.
No.
This game specifically is you're running a company and you guys are starting to explore out of this world resources, right? And I think it does capture that. You are a business trying to get to the moon and get those goods first to send back to
when we interviewed Steven, he specifically talked about how he wanted to make it a realistic approach. And it's definitely a realistic business simulator. I mean, it's well implemented.
I mean, I'll be honest, this would be great for some high school students trying to figure out some of that, some of those, business concepts. This is great. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. All right. So let's move on to the rule book. How was that?
The rule book's pretty good. It's got a nice cover on it. Matches the box. It's got, so it's a 32-page book, but there's a lot of, see, the gameplay actually only runs to page 18, so it's not like a heavy read for the first time you're playing. And there's some pages in here that are talking about the factions and so on. So there's some fluff in here. You've got the setup is well implemented. It's got numbering, very, very easy to read. It does have the contents with nice pictures at the very beginning, so you can easily find what your pieces are. The phases, it makes sense how it's ordered and structured. The only part that we had a problem with were some of the cards. These Moon Wonder cards, there's nothing on them that in the rule book that tells you whether the adjectives can be the same or not. And that came up during the gameplay. So just a little bit of confusion around that. I posted the question on Board Game Geek. I'm still awaiting an answer on it. But this is an add-on. It's not part of the main game. Now, I like that add-on, and we'll get into that more in the gameplay. But yeah, as far as most everything that you need is in the rulebook, and these cheat cards are very handy. They have on one side the resources that ship, and then the other side they have all the phases and steps. So it seemed like there was a couple things that were not detailed or left out on this, but I can't remember what they were.
Honestly, I don't know, because once you get into the game and you kind of memorize it, it's not.
Yeah, but it's a nice, really handy guide for once you get as you step through the game.
As a kind of little bit reminder when you first start out, or as something that you've had a gap for a while.
So I think the rulebook does a pretty outstanding job for a fairly heavy game. I'm going to go ahead and give it an 8.5.
Okay, all right. So now let's talk about gameplay. So this is a resource management with a component of time management system. So basically, you first initially bid for starting player. If there is a tie, it's basically if you were lower on the board, you'll get first dibs. It kind of helps as a catch-up mechanism a little bit.
On the first round, you have to roll off or draw another card or randomly or what have you. But there's not a good system really on the first turn. But after
random is fine. Because it all, at the beginning it is kind of random.
Say it's very painful when you tie and you have to pay that full price, but you still end up last. That's where things get frustrating. We had a 3-way tie in this last game on the first turn.
I mean, it was fine because I was first player.
Yeah, I ended up last because my roll's awful.
Yeah, I rolled a 6. All right, so you take that bid and then you start placing your ships. You have 2 ships. Now, you have 6 different locations, unless there's 4 players and then you have 8 locations. You have 2 slow, 1 medium, and 1 long one. So the long shuttle is honestly just a really big shuttle that fits a lot of stuff, and it takes a while for it to get there because it's so heavy. The middle one has a few more items than the fast route, but again, it takes a little bit longer, but less than the slow lane for those resources. And then you have the fast track. You barely get to put anything in it, but it gets there super quick. And then the same is on the opposite side, going from Moon to Earth. There's actually a decrease in items all around from going back versus coming to. And my guess is they're kind of running out of fuel because, they made it there. Now they got to go back. But you get 2 ships and you get to bid. Now you can get 2 that are going or 2 that are coming. It doesn't really matter, but it has to do with placement. And you're taking your turn. So the first one, if I win first bid, I get to place anywhere. Now, so say if I did long going from Earth to the moon, and then Randy would place his ship.
Which we would then have a third player in this case. So you place your thing. The goal is to get supplies that you need to process up on the moon. So I'm placing my tile there. There'll be a third player that would take the other spot. There's nothing left open if you're playing with 3 players or 4 players.
So then I go to place my second, and Randy will place his third. Now, this is the first round. I have nothing to ship back, so I'm going to take this spot because that seems like a thing I'm going to do.
Well, in this case, you're doing that because we don't have a third person right now, but there wouldn't have been an option to do that. Otherwise.
No, I know. Okay, so once we ended up finishing our placement of our ships, then we're going to pick out the goods that we want to do. On the actual space that you place your ship, there's the number of items. Now, one thing is these big habitat cubes are 2, and then your reds are 1, astronauts are 1, and blues are 1 as well. Now, they're free, so whatever you put on your ship, it's free to do that because, your Earth Corporation doesn't want you to struggle with that, right? So you can put down, so I got 4, then 3 of that, so that's 8. I'll put an astronaut, that's my 9 items. The one thing that I will say, it's kind of a nuisance to remember the habitats too.
Yeah. It is on the card, though.
I know, it is on the card, and you get used to it, but initially it's kind of annoying to have to remember that. But I don't know how they would fix it. Maybe putting a 2 on the cube, but then really, would that be helpful? I don't know. But I understand why habitat cubes are end up being the restricting resource as far as building goes. But
well, you also have a restriction on the astronauts. You can only have 2 per ship flying from Earth to the moon.
Right, and that again is notated on the thing. So that's that. Anyway, so then they travel. Rainy didn't put anything on his.
Well, that's because we were
and then this one, and then this one's going, and I'll actually get the resources this round. All right, so then you receive your goods, and then based on player order, you're going to end up being able to purchase gold cards if you so choose. Now, the gold cards are extraordinarily interesting buildings. Some of them got some really good stuff on them. I do recommend them getting earlier in the game. I keep forgetting that because they're so expensive. Yeah, but the earlier you get them, the better off you are.
Yeah, they give you a nice ability, but they're also worth victory points at the end of the game.
Just like all your buildings are.
But they're not. Most of them are not worth a whole lot. Although one of them lets you buy 25 victory points on each turn, which is really nice if you can get that one. But yeah, these cards are powerful, but they cost a fortune in resources. So your trade-off is you're not able to build as much to either ship back or to develop.
But then some of them replace some of these. They don't actually replace them, but they like the solar.
The one I got, it gave me 6 gems. The one your brother got
so
6, like 8 energy.
Yeah, so it semi-replaces that building. So if you were to not develop that for that card, you can kind of get away with it. So there's a little bit of caveat there, but I always forget to get them at the beginning because I keep thinking that they're end of game. They're not, okay? Don't think that they're end of game. Think about them as soon as I can afford it, which you have to then remember not to pay the resources to buy them.
Because you have to have them at the beginning of your turn before you actually produce or do anything on your actions.
But you do get these, so maybe you just plan it out on a big ship, making sure you have everything you need. I don't know. So you move that up along, you get the resources, and then you start placing your workers. Now, at the start of the game, I think you only have 3 or 4 workers.
You have 3 at the beginning.
3 at the beginning. I got some astronauts along the way. And then you're going to choose where they're going to end up going. I'm going to need food. So I'll go here, I'll collect 4 food, I'm going to mine, and maybe I'm going to go get some blue cubes.
Now, you can do these actions intermingled with developing your board. So at the beginning of the game, these cards are not on your board. You would actually add them to the board to improve the stats, and then they can be leveled up. So you got 3 tiers on most of these.
Correct. I ended up fully developing my board, which was super nice. Mm-hmm. But that was my only victory points, which was the problem. But we'll talk about that here in a little bit later. Okay, so once you take all your turns, you build anything you want to build at your station, then you can choose to send stuff back on ships, back to the Earth, and sell them at the market. Now, the market is adjusted by, it slowly decreases because, a supply goes through, and then it does eventually end up resetting because maybe they found a new use for it, and then it continues to go along that front, which is kind of very, I like markets that kind of flex with the ebb and flow of the game. And then you kind of start over again. That's the game. Overall, I like this game. It's definitely, it's a business builder. It is not space and explore or anything else like that. It is really about developing your base, aka your business, and trying to get those resources back to Earth. Now, I ended up getting, so one of the things is you can choose a clan ability or a business ability, whatever.
Yeah.
Mine was the Builders Guild. So basically I got bonuses for building. I made sure I was all the way through. That did not work. Do not just build your buildings. Okay, you do need to ship stuff, actually make it to Earth to win this game.
Well, one of the nice things with the cards is they give you beginner cards, which basically kind of guide you on how you're going to play your game, because they give you bonus points for completing certain tasks by certain turns. So it kind of teaches you how to strategize in the game. We played that way the first time.
I like that one better, to be honest with you.
And then we played this one, and we used factions, which I thought were going to be like variable player powers. They are to some extent, but they're very weak. This is, these are...
I prefer the other.
Yeah, I don't like the factions the way they are, because some of them are just awful. I mean, some of them, I don't know why you would ever use them. There probably is a use for them. I just didn't see it. So I ended up taking one where basically all I did was get one less astronaut, but I gained an extra habitat cube. Didn't really alter the game at that beginning. It was just at the beginning of the game.
But Andrew got an extra astronaut, and he said it directly impacted him because, I mean, that's resources every single round that you're getting. So there may be... I should have chose that one because I had one that was similar, and I was like, man, I should stick in it.
Yeah.
But I didn't start... By doing that, I didn't start with the habitat cube. But then thinking about it, that person could have gotten me the resource. Anyway.
I think the biggest thing is getting the turn order, because that's really important. If you want to get a lot of resources shipped, you want to be high up in that turn order, because you'll end up getting stuck like I did this game, where I was last most of the game, and I ended up with the fast launch, which I mean, that's really very fast. It gets you stuff quickly, but you only get like 1 or 2 items. It's not...
Yeah, nice.
It's hard to maintain and keep up with everybody. So my board was not developed nearly as much as anyone else's.
Well, and I had that problem the last time we played, was I was always last. Even if I paid 4 or 5, just because the way things worked out, people outbid me or whatever the case may be. So it was actually really, really rough. But player order does really matter for this game because of placement is so integral.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually my only complaint, really. I understand you've got to bid for ships, right? Because there's only so many ships and et cetera, et cetera. But that's the one aspect of the game I do not like. I really...
Well, and to offset some, they put, as you get in the later rounds, they put multipliers on how much you pay. So if you played a 5 and you have a 3 multiplier, you have to spend 15 victory points to get it. And that's kind of painful. In the last round, it's 5 times.
Right, so, but honestly, but then you play a 1 and you're still playing an outrageous cost.
Yeah.
That is the only part of the game that I wish wasn't there. But then I don't know how else you kind of would do that, right? Picking the ships and things like that. So I get why it's there. I understand what it's used for. It makes sense. I just wish it wasn't that way. I wish they would have figured out a different way. Because this, of course, I'm not a big bid. I don't like bidding. I really don't. I like strict cost kind of thing.
The other thing that's offset by it is the drafting for the gold cards and the expansion piece cards is based on reverse turn order. So in those cases, you want to be last so you get first picks of those things, which is nice.
Right, which I'm pretty sure they did it to help kind of even this out because it is so dramatic about this. So I get that. But at the same time, I still think it's a little brutal.
It can be very brutal. And your brother definitely milked it for what it was worth.
Well, he ended up getting midway every single time, which, fine, fair enough, right? And he kicked our butt handily. And I think that's part of the problem is these scores are so dramatic. A lot of times you enter games that are close, and I don't mind a far spread game. I'm not a huge fan of catch-up mechanisms. But this part here is just brutal. And I think that's why there's such a variety on these. And I think you just have to get over the fact that you're going to end up spending money to get out there.
Well, there's a lot of scoring in this because you've got the scoring during the game where you're shipping things, which can pay out big. But you also have all your buildings that you upgrade are worth points. This add-on, the Moon Wonders, where you add the noun and the 2 adjectives, have victory conditions that you can get basically additional value to by adding the adjectives. You have to play all 3, which that part I didn't care for so much. I would have rather had it where you could build just the noun or you could build a noun and the adjective, 1 adjective, but they made it, you have to build all 3 of them, and that's very expensive, but it pays out big victory points. I didn't realize some of the cards that don't pertain to your specific building actually generated more victory points than the ones that did pertain to your building, which I thought that was kind of lame. But yeah, there's a lot of ways to score points in this game, and a lot of strategies I think they're going to pay out, and that's what I liked about it. I think that you can't just do 1 and win though, and that's why you didn't ship anything for victory points during the course of the game, and I think that's what cost.
But honestly, so this is me speaking real. I barely maximized all my buildings, right? That is all I did the game. But then somehow Andrew did it around not really, but around ahead of me. and he was able to ship stuff. And I mean, being last sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was going first to last, just the way things were rolling out. It was not, it's rough when he beats you that handily, and you're thinking over here, well, I really maximized everything to build up this up, so I shouldn't have worried about the Builder's Guild. I should have just ignored it and just did my own stuff. And I think that was, it was learning for me. The first time, I ended up getting screwed on the first round because I didn't realize you could take multiple spaces. Anyway, long story short, I still have some work on this game to play. I gotta play it some more to figure it out, because mentally I'm just like, I haven't figured it out yet in my head. Because the scores keep being so dramatic. So I think, okay, there's something not quite right. Something's not clicking for me as far as gameplay goes. But the thing is, it's going to bring me back to the table, because this game offers quite a bit.
Yeah. And I will say, even with the fast track, there's sometimes that's advantageous, because I was able to get my card that I was looking for as far as the bonus, because I was able to get my stuff shipped up there that one turn. And that I was just needing those one or two items to buy it.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering if, being able to place, 2 astronauts right there at the beginning just to get your stuff sent in may hold a lot of benefit. And there's some stuff there, but habitat cubes are so hard to get, so there's the process there of having to choose what you want to bring from space. Overall, let's give it a score, Randy. I am probably going to give this an 8 pending additional gameplays. I really hate this bidding thing, and it drives me nuts, but I can get over it if I can get this to click with me. So right now I'm going to give it an 8, because there's a lot of good things about it.
I'm actually surprised you're that low, because you were so excited about this one.
Well, I really hate bidding. I suck at it, guys. I really do. It's there. But everything else is good. It's got everything else I like. It's got the time, the resource management, the timing aspect of it is really done well. I love the building up of your boards, and so there's a lot of good things. I'm just concerned that this really manipulates the game in such a way. I think it's a little too brutal. To get last player just sucks so much.
It sucks when you spend the same amount and still end up with last, or
that's what I'm saying. It's really rough. Like, maybe if you didn't get it, maybe you shouldn't have to pay that much, right, or something. I don't know. So for me, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm just it'd be interesting if you bid. Okay, if you want the slow ship, everyone bid for the slow ship. Maybe that's the way they should have done it, because then you really are bidding for that one ship versus, just turn order. And maybe that would help me. Because then okay, if I don't get it, I don't have to pay for it. So I've got a real problem over here. And this is a Miranda problem. This is probably not anyone else's problem. This is a Miranda problem. What about you?
I'm an 8 as well, but it's not for the same reasons. I don't think the card drafting or the card bidding is a problem. I think that was an interesting strategy to the game, is trying to choose how much you're going to sacrifice of your score to get bucked for position. And I don't think the game would feel nearly as compelling if you didn't have that aspect. I love the building up of your factory boards. The fact that the scores can run away so bad is where I struggle, because it's like you said, your brother ran away handily. I mean, I was within 50, but that's still,
but then I was
in most games.
But here's the thing, though. I was within 50 of you. That's a 100-point spread. That's like a lot of spread.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Usually, that's not an insignificant amount. In this game, it is an insignificant amount.
But if like me and you were together, and then he ran away with it, it'd be like, okay, we played it wrong, or something, or maybe we let him have some stuff. But where all of us were so spread out, I do really have concern about this mechanism making it such a... I'm wondering if the ships aren't quite equal, or there's something here that makes it really harsh.
Yeah, and then the other thing is, I love the Moon Wanderers, but to have the adjectives that are relevant to your building, that are specifically saying you get a bonus for having them associated with this building type, to be weaker than the ones. I honestly, that was my bad. I didn't pay attention to the other ones, because I just assumed that all the cards that were relevant to my building were the ones I wanted.
Well, and cost. The cost had a really big deal with it. Like, depending on what you had to pay, that really altered, what that looked like.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think an 8's a fair score for this. And I think it's an outstandingly well-designed game, and there's a lot of thought put into it. I just wish that there was a little more balance on ways, because it seems like if you get that early, I can get my resources up there quickly, you get a significant advantage by building out your board quickly that you can run away with the score. And that's what happened in this game. I ended up competing based on trying to get in-game bonus scoring, but then your brother ended up outscoring me on that too somehow. So, I think it's on how you best play it, but it's a little frustrating when you're thinking you're doing well, and then at the end of the game you find out there's no category you were doing well in, even though you were...
Well, and you think you played well. Like, I honestly thought I played well. I used every resource that I absolutely could. Like, I bid the best that I could, and to be so handily beat was just very rough on my part, because there wasn't, the only thing it was like, well, I didn't get first place every single time, because you can't, So that's where I think that's why I'm just very anxious about the bidding aspect, because I feel like there should be a way to overcome the bid. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I do really like this game. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Definitely check it out, especially if you're about those economic games. I think this game has a lot to offer. But we'll catch you guys later.
All right, bye.